Good early evening from Abu Dhabi, and welcome to our continuing excellent series being hosted by Hub 71 that explores the technology ecosystem built here in the capital of the UAE. Our hour-long session is aptly called Abu Dhabi Decoded, an environment fit for global companies of the future. I'm John Defteris, I'm the emerging markets editor and anchor and correspondent based in Abu Dhabi for the last 9 years. Now, we have a kind of a mandate for the next hour is to explore where we are today, assess the impact, and I would add here, opportunity of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. There's a good and bad, but if you're fit for fight, then it's something that an outcome could be a good one. And to do a deep dive on the next phase, global trends in startup ecosystems, their role in economic development, of course, and achieving scale and global champions. We have a fantastic panel tonight that is open to your questions as well. Let me introduce them as we speak. You can see here in the box His Excellency Omar Sultan Al Olama. He's the Minister of Artificial Intelligence for the UAE. His Excellency Mohammed Al Askar, Director General of the Abu Dhabi Digital Authority. He's up in the upper left there. Daher bin Daher Al Mahari. He's the CEO of the Registration Authority for the Abu Dhabi Global Market. He's in the middle on the right for you. Stefan Kuster is the Global Ecosystem Consulting Advisor and Equity Partner for the Startup Genome. He's joining us from the UK or London this evening. And Ramiz Shahadi is the Managing Director for Facebook in the Middle East in North Africa. He's in the center of your screen to the left. But the first thing I wanted to do is set the framework with somebody I had a chance to interview very early in the process of the development of Hub 71, and very importantly, the financial framework for the Abu Dhabi global market. It is the Chairman and Minister of State, Ahmed Al Sayed.
Days, the UAE has always been placing great efforts in providing an attractive environment that offers the certainty, clarity, and incentives to market participants. And we intend to maintain our competitive position well into the future. To boost its competitiveness, the Abu Dhabi government and agencies, including Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development, Qadan 21 program, ADNOC, ADQ, and ADIO, had been actively unlocking opportunities which new markets, technology, and digitalization have generated. In this context, many people in this audience have been working with Hub 71, which stands as a catalyst in developing a global tech ecosystem that serves the needs of our region well into the future. Hub 71, with many partners, have transformed the startup playbook and entrepreneurial landscape in the Middle East and Africa region in just a 12-month period. The collective efforts of the Abu Dhabi government and the Abu Dhabi institutions have put in place frameworks and policies that encourage futuristic ideas and novel innovations, attract global talent and investments that support the successful scaling of businesses. With Abu Dhabi as their home base, the startup community has access to new markets, well-recognized incubators, accelerators, a network of investors, industry mentors, and financial regulators, training programs through the ADGM Academy, and different co-working spaces to learn, grow, and excel.
I was wondering, how do you develop the Emirati and regional talent to take advantage of this ecosystem today, and then that continuous education, if you will, to make sure they're prepared for the next generation of products that need to be developed? How are you seeing it yourself as the Minister of Artificial Intelligence?
First and foremost, John, let's talk about the context of the whole region that we are in to understand whether there is an opportunity for ADGM and what that does mean, what does it entail. The region does not have a shortage or a lack of entrepreneurs. We don't have a lack of talent, and we also don't have a lack of ambition. There are many, many brilliant young men and women across the Middle East and beyond, by the way. If you look at India, if you look at Africa, that are looking for opportunities to be able to grow their ideas and grow their businesses and thrive. What they lack is a conducive business environment, one wherein they can attract talent, so there's quality of life, so they're able to access the talent and attract them as well. And also a market that is regulated properly, not too restrictive, but is regulated enough to ensure that their businesses can become global. They can be based in this country and be global as well. So I think ADGM, Hub 71, and many of the products under the umbrella of the Abu Dhabi government currently focused on enabling startups is a genius move that is going to attract not just startups, but is also going to create the Silicon Valley in the UAE beyond just the UAE for the region. We are seeing many success stories come out of the UAE. Dubai probably was historically and still is an emirate that has a lot of startups coming out. But I do believe that these initiatives like Hub 71 and ADGM are going to accelerate Abu Dhabi's growth in the startup scene, and is also going to create that for them. But today, because of COVID, we have become a lot more digital and a lot more efficient, if I may. I think that beyond COVID, what is going to happen is we're going to take these efficiency gains with us into the new world that we're going to go into. But at the same time, look for better or the best quality of life that we can find to ensure that we can work properly, and also learn about what are the opportunities that are at hand and how we can improve our business as well. So I think we're well suited in the UAE to continue to dominate the space. I do believe that as other countries continue to thrive around us, we will be accelerating the unicorn race that we have, and also improving the output that comes out of the UAE.
Government has a very critical role when it's come to supporting the startup and building the ecosystem. Abu Dhabi can become a very attractive place. Today, with the support of the rest of the government, we are at the stage where we build something unique with having a one platform that anybody can find all of the services on it. And these services are provided instantaneously, or even in a proactive manner, or it will not take you more than 6 minutes to get these services. And this is the target leadership put for us. And today we have one app that have more than 300 services as of today. And this is something never happened anywhere in the rest of the world. And this is, for us, is a very key enabler of ensuring the quality of life factor to that aspect. In addition to that, we also know that any startup will want to build a business case. He want to think how to plan his business, will require to have access to data. And this is where Abu Dhabi also have emphasized of opening the data and providing it to the public. And we recently launched an open data platform with around 1,600 data sets as of today. And our target to reach 2,000 data sets by the end of the year. And this will help startups and entrepreneurs to study and understand the ecosystem and the business opportunities and the competitiveness, and how to plan their business moving forward with getting data from the government from an accurate source. So the government is a key enabler, and technology has become a key foundation for that enablement.
The tech startup framework, and in support and in partnership with Hub 71, we've looked at the entire ecosystem, and which actually encompass the core building blocks for startups, VCs, accelerator, and so on. So as ADGM, we want to build a sustainable growth, and want to ensure that firms established over here are set up. We've ensured really our regulation and regulatory frameworks is on a global standard. And to see how we reacted, take as an example the pandemic, and here where we are even supported that. Yes, the regulations were transparent, supported, but we even introduced policies that really supported businesses, and especially during the pandemic, where we've introduced incentives that would support really this. So it was actually a balance between regulations and policies and actions that were taken proactively and swiftly by ADGM, and not only ADGM, the Emirate of Abu Dhabi and the entire Emirate.
We indeed had the pleasure and privilege to work with ADGM in 2019 and early 2020, and it was astonishing for us to see how modern, how competitive the regulatory environment is, how easy it is for a startup to set up a business, and not being distraught and spending overly much time in complying. So setting up a business, really a highly competitive environment. We've seen the enormous speed of development even since going through the pandemic. And it is one, I mean, we follow ecosystems all around the world. And these ecosystems have been a great success story till end of February 2020, pre-pandemic. I think we recorded 300 billion in investment last year. 3 trillion in ecosystem value. That's a G7 economy. That's a success story. It's a big success story. Then we had this crisis, and we had this hit of the crisis, and particularly younger startups, not the large established scale-ups, but younger startups all across the world were dramatically hit, and funding dried up. That certainly has been a problem. But we see the shift now in stronger demand for digital services. The speed of development here at ADGM and Abu Dhabi is extraordinary. So that really stands out. And we believe it's being picked up by many who are in the startup scene and are interested in developing their business in Abu Dhabi. A successful startup ecosystem requires organic local development. You cannot just put some bets on attracting the brightest and the best from the US, from the UK and so forth, but rather it really requires at this stage a very organic development. So again, listening to the Minister for Artificial Intelligence and the efforts that have been made in education, but also the efforts that are being made in activating young entrepreneurs, more experienced workforce, in order to take up a business. The fantastic facilities that are available at Hub 71, etc. All that's incredibly conducive to building such an environment.
A lot has happened, a lot is happening, and a lot is yet to happen. And maybe if I just roll out a little bit before honing in specifically on the context in the UAE, and let me caveat that by saying that the indicators are all heading in the right direction from where we stand today. Rolling out, when you look at the MENA region, by our count, there are over 43 million micro, small, medium, large businesses. 43 million. The percentage of businesses that are engaged actively in any form of digital economy is less than 0.5%. Mull on that for just a second.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing actually.
Than 0.5%. 43 million businesses, the total number engaged transactionally is around 175,000. Therefore, the prize in terms of socioeconomic development for the region as a whole is massive. Massive in terms of bringing businesses into the digital economy, enabling them with the skills necessary, not just to be present, but to thrive in the digital economy, means job preservation, job creation, wellness improvement, and a whole new portfolio of benefits that come to communities, to societies, to groups of people, different segments of society all across the region. We've also launched, during the crisis, Facebook shops. So imagine you're a brick and mortar. Facebook shops gives you the ability to create a storefront, to offer a menu, to have a payment gateway, to discover warehousing solutions and logistics solutions and payment gateway solutions. It's a lifeline for those businesses that have depended on a physical radius, a physical catchment, footfall into the store. They're now unleashed in a community and an audience that can engage them without the mobility barriers that regrettably COVID has highlighted.
What is happening is historically the UAE was the hub of Africa, India, and the Middle East business-wise. And that's why a country the size of the UAE was able to play such a dominant role when it comes to trade with some big players and being one of their biggest trading partners. So we were one of the top 3 trading partners with India, with China. China is one of our top 3 trading partners. We were in the top 10 for China and so on and so forth. What's happening is this is actually translating now into the digital space. We know our strengths. Our strengths are we have agile regulations and policies and governance in general. We have a business-friendly environment. You are able to have the best quality of life in the UAE. but our market size is quite limited. We understand that and we acknowledge it. So the only way forward is for you to allow people to come to the UAE but expand globally. And the digital realm actually does not have any borders. You can actually be in the UAE and sell in Saudi Arabia, sell in Bahrain, sell in Egypt or Cyprus, and you don't have an issue. The second part of this is something that we are doing directly as the Office of Artificial Intelligence in the UAE government. We've realized that some countries cannot afford to put policies and regulations as fast as the UAE. So we were in talks with India, for example, many, many years back in 2017. And they had an issue saying that they have bureaucracy in some places to be able to deploy AI effectively. So we've signed something called the AI Bridge with them. The AI Bridge allows for Indian startups to come to the UAE, operate as if they are Emirati startups, deploy within our regulatory ecosystem, and then take the findings and convince the Indian lawmakers that they can deploy the same thing in India because it has worked in the UAE. It attracts talent for us. It also allows for us to access the Indian market because they allow us to do the same for established companies. And it's a win-win situation for both countries. So we need to work together. I think it's a win-win situation, and the UAE has always been for collaboration rather than competition.
What we saw in the analysis, entrepreneurial skill sets, hyper-growth experience, so the ability to take a technology business international and do that, certainly well developed in Abu Dhabi, not the least as Abu Dhabi is so diverse. So it really attracts so much foreign talent and experienced talent. That helps. I also see a huge opportunity at the moment and coming out of this crisis as a lot of mentorship programs have gone completely virtual, which basically eradicates the natural advantage a Silicon Valley, a London or a Singapore would have because they got this talent that is giving their experience back to a younger generation. Today, we've gone completely digital when it comes to mentorship, intelligent mentorship programs. You really can tap, if you're trying to train these entrepreneurial skills, you can tap mentors all around the world. And that's really a great equalizer. And it's a good thing for smaller ecosystems to further develop. So tapping these international networks of mentors who are interested in helping younger entrepreneurs develop their businesses, develop these soft skills, these entrepreneurial skill sets, I would call them, to start, but more importantly, to scale a business. That's really been a great equalizer when I look back over the last 6 months. And that gives us a lot of hope for many of the smaller ecosystems in the world.
Facebook, Instagram, our platforms are home to so many such communities that avail themselves to anyone who is really interested to plug in, to benefit, to learn, and to grow. The hubs that I described, the SMB training hub, the business resource hub, is very much about taking these entrepreneurial capabilities that exist within the brick and mortar world among the entrepreneurs who are keen to digitize and to help them translate those skills into what will work in the digital economy. It's not always one-to-one. And equipping them with not just the linguistic skills, but the analytic skills, the marketing skills, the strategic skills to be able to reposition themselves and to thrive. Much of this is also in one-to-one sessions with marketing experts from Facebook or the Facebook network that enables this type of translation.
All of the efforts that have been put in place so far are incredible. And building the ecosystem, as we've seen with Silicon Valley, it took more than 50 years, from the 60s until the 2000s, for that to come to fruition. The rate of acceleration in the UAE is actually very impressive. In less than 2 decades, we were able to export unicorns from the UAE, attract talent from around the world. And I think it's just testament that what takes other countries half a century takes us 2 decades or sometimes less. And that is something that it makes us optimistic about the future. But coming back to your point on these specific institutions, what we realize is the formula for success isn't the same everywhere. And people think that the formula is what Silicon Valley has. But there are many hubs of excellence around the world. There are hubs of excellence in China that are very different to Silicon Valley. There are hubs of excellence in Tel Aviv that are also quite different with regards to the quality of life, what currently exists from an infrastructure play. What I think needs to happen is the educational institutions need to be invested in continuously, because education is the key driver for brighter future for every single industry and every single sector and every single facet of life. But we need to start providing UBI, but I think tech UBI. And I don't mean universal basic income, I mean universal basic infrastructure. So Facebook can invest in supercomputers, they can invest in data centers, they can invest in cloud computing. If we do believe, and I actually do believe this strongly, if we do believe that the future is going to be digital and there aren't going to be any companies that are not digital either fully or partially, we need to open access to every startup and to all individuals to be able to access the infrastructure necessary for them to thrive without paying a hefty fee. And that's something that we need to continuously do more of. You're seeing right now, there are so many programs to attract talent, wherein certain countries are trying to be very isolationist and are trying to push out people. We are trying to attract people because we do believe that if you look at the construct of the UAE, 200 nationalities, people from around the world coming to achieve the Emirati dream, as it's now known, is something that is testament to the vision and to the roadmap that we have going forward.
Initially, when we started the open data platform, we did a lot of session with the startups and a lot of potential investors. And we reached out to Abu Dhabi Investment Office, we reached out to Hub 71 and a lot of players. And we asked what the community want, what type of data you want. And we got this data because this is the thing that people want to understand before they start their business, or people that have their business already running and they want to expand or to understand the current situation. And honestly, it is very surprising that within almost 3 months, when we launched the platform, we reached more than 160 downloads just in 3 months. That means the community is hungry for data. Immediately, people are going and trying to download and access the data. And this is actually a big motivational for us, because today we have a reason to go and chase more data and avail more data publicly. We're changing a whole mindset here of everything is secure to an open by default culture, which is a very interesting thing we do in Abu Dhabi right now. And I hope that its value actually be appreciated by the community, whether they are academics or even entrepreneurs that try to understand what's happening around.
Yeah, first of all, what's missing or what has been put in place. So we are so, as having said, so delighted to see the development around open data. Here in Europe, we believe over the last 10 years that open data concepts in the Union have created about 2% in additional GDP. Very mature, very large economies. So you can see what kind of entrepreneurial energy and economic impact and societal impact, after all, this is going to create. And so delighted to see that, because last time we left Abu Dhabi, this was not as developed as it is today. So congratulations. I think this is
very interesting.
Absolutely the right way to go. Secondly, we see the rise of deep tech all across the world, more complex software, hardware combinations, etc. AI, cybersecurity as an infrastructure component.
I would say regionally, even locally, there are a few basics that still need to be put in place. And the Minister of AI was very right in using the acronym to also indicate infrastructure in addition to the notion of income. We've got more to do in evolving bankruptcy law. Particularly as we increasingly digitize, we have to make it easy for people to recover from failure, because the rate of failure in the digital world oftentimes is far greater, far more frequent than it is in the brick and mortar world. We've got to also make cross-border trade extremely ready. Yeah, it should be as easy to move things between Abu Dhabi and Riyadh as it is to move something from New York to Abu Dhabi. And oftentimes that's not the case. So cross-border has to get simplified and streamlined.
We're in the midst of the second wave of the pandemic. What have we learned in the first wave in terms of building community trust?
We as a community in UAE, and by community I mean everybody here and living in UAE, we have a huge trust with our leadership and the government. And I think that trust really was shown with how we adopted the policy that the government issued to deal with the pandemic. Everybody was compliant, everybody was, and I believe that this is a right decision made by leadership to address the current situation. And we are today as a UAE, as an example of how a country have dealt with this pandemic very successfully. This is just as a matter of showing how leadership are investing to support the community as a whole. And the community also appreciate that, and this has built huge trust with the government and the ability for us to deal with different situations. Nobody witnessed any security issues or any breach. And moving forward, this is a lot of lesson learned here, that security will always remain a key aspect when it comes to digital. So security for us is a big agenda, and we just recently announced the approval of the cybersecurity strategy for Abu Dhabi. And this will remain. And also we believe the next phase will be the phase of data. Data is the crucial. It's a new crude. It's a new oil that anybody can use to leverage. As I mentioned by everybody here, digitally will be there, and data will be the fuel that will flourish, hopefully, for all the aspects, whether it's business or even socially.
To Mohammed Al-Askar's point, His Excellency's point, I remember listening to His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed when he said at the World Government Summit, in 50 years we'll be calm when we can export the last barrel of oil because we've had developed other sectors. And I have to say the fast track of what we've seen at ADGM and the digital space over the last 5 years alone has been impressive, plus the public-private partnerships that Stefan and Rams has addressed. Thank you very much for your questions from the audience. And Helen, thanks again for managing it. On behalf of His Excellency Omar Alama and His Excellency Ahmed Al-Saig, we want to extend our thanks to the panelists who I thought were direct and to the point. And again, we could have probably kept the chat room open for another 45 minutes. We'll have to close it there. I'll toss it back to our team at Hub 71. Thanks very much.